Sports in the city. Sports. Sports in the city. Sports in the East Coast from the south to the north. There's a sports in the city wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in to Sports in the City TV. I'm your sports G, Reed Richards, alongside with my partner in crime, Brooklyn's own BK Ty.
Good evening, sports fans.
That's what's up, bro. How you, family?
I'm great, fam. Great to be here, man. Great to see you. Great to be seen. You know, all that good stuff, man.
Thank you, man. Peace, God. We're back in Sports in the City, live from the arena. You know, hit up that chat, get at us, hit that like, share, and subscribe. We on Facebook, YouTube Live. Check in while we're live. Leave your comments. Let us know which sports topics you want to talk about. What's top shelf in your sports world? And you want to sponsor the show, let us know. So here we go. Let's get to it. This is going to be a classic.
Man, we gonna get that's gonna be a monster. Never monster, man. We gonna get that's gonna be a monster.
Yeah, it's gonna be a monster, man. Sports in the City TV via the iRant Network presents Top Shelf Tuesday. What's the story in the city? The word on the streets, the haps from the arena, the Equinox progression, episode 12. Kicking off with the NFL helmet to helmet segment, week 13 will be high stepping through the league like Coach Prime. The 49ers rout the Eagles. Playoff picture continues to develop, capping off a madcap week. Reaching the summit, we'll be backpedaling like Travis Hunter through the championship week slate of NCAA football games. The selection committee chooses the CFP teams. And did FSU get snubbed? And we're going to talk about them Heisman finalists. Round ball around the world. We're picking and rolling through the NBA rundown of the week. The season in tourney quarter final round is playing out, followed by more top shelf. Reaching the summit part 2, guts and ice, live from the diamond. The winter meetings begin. Our monsters of the week with the usual suspects and some new additions rising to the occasion like underdog upsets of the week. BK Ty's top 5 father and son sports combo duos of all time. So let's get to it. Strictly top shelf, off the top of the pile. NFL helmet to helmet. We already know where we start in this. 49ers rout the Eagles 42-19. Was that an upset to you, Todd?
An upset? I don't know about an upset. I don't think so.
Yeah. 49ers, they outplayed them. They had all their pieces together. They were just more physical.
You know what I will say?
The ball, they were there first.
Absolutely. I will say it's probably surprising by how much Philly lost. But San Fran went out there on a mission, man. They were definitely on a mission. So yeah, I don't know about a surprise, but the biggest surprise is probably the score, the difference in the score. That's about it.
That was a surprise, not that they won, but in the manner in which they won,
absolutely.
That was definitely a surprise. 42-12. 19, excuse me. That was the surprise. From the insert of the game, they just came to the first quarter, they started off a little lethargic. They only scored 2 field goals in the first quarter. After that, they scored like 6 straight touchdowns on them boys.
Yeah, man.
Deebo Samuel scored 3 touchdowns. CMC added another one. The passing game was looking very precise. And the thing with the passing game is that they have a lot of motion going on, and it looks like it's not really effective. But they load up one side of the field whether it's either on the right or the left, they'll load up one side of the field with 4 receivers. And then they'll start crisscrossing and going through their patterns. The Philadelphia Eagles, in the middle of their pass defense, they were getting eaten alive, bro. Eaten alive. Debo, I think, had about 127 yak yards.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Debo was definitely on a mission. I think he was one of the outspoken Niners that was saying something about, the Eagles talking junk or whatever. I don't know if it was just billboard material or what, but they definitely went out there and showed out and put down their stamp at, to let everybody know who's the real best team in the league right now.
I think they have a natural disdain for the Eagles.
Well, that goes back to the playoffs last year. Didn't the Eagles knock them out?
Indeed. And they also knocked out, I believe, almost all of their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, and in this game, speaking of that, they twisted Jalen Hurts up like a pretzel on one play, and he had to go back to the blue tents, and he didn't come back until afterwards. And after that, he didn't look the same. Would you have something back out there?
A lot of times it's the player, man, not the coaches. You don't want to keep a player out if he feels like he can still contribute. I guess they felt like the game wasn't out of hand, and he wanted to get in there and try his hand. But to your point, you got a big playoff push coming, and as we can now see, it's not going to be a cakewalk. So I might have erred on the side of caution and just had him relax his heels for the rest of the game. But it is what it is.
Right. Brock Purdy threw for 314 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Brock Purdy party.
Yeah. But and CMC rushed 17 times for 93 yards, added 1 touchdown. Debo, 4 receptions, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then he had another one running. That team is a totally different monster when Debo Samuel's there. And then they had Trent Williams back, who's regarded to be the best offensive lineman, if not the best, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. So they totally embarrassed the Eagles 42-19. They show that they are the number 1 team, if not in the NFL, at least in the NFC conference.
For real.
And they have Dallas coming up. The Eagles have Dallas coming up this week. So the Eagles are 10-2. Dallas is 9-3. So if the Eagles take a hit on Sunday, which is going to be the evening America's primetime game at 8:20, if the Cowboys manage to win that game, they're going to be tied in the division. And interestingly enough, there has not been a repeat winner of the NFC East division in almost 14, 15 years. So They said that trend may continue. So we're going to definitely keep an eye on.
Well, listen, after that Sunday afternoon game, I'm pretty sure they've thrown that theory into question as well.
Right. Well, we're going to see. It hasn't
I mean, like you said, man,
the
biggest surprise was how much Philly lost by. Not even the fact that they lost,
Yeah, it happens. It happens to to the best teams. We started off Thursday's games last week. Cowboys 41-35 over the Seahawks. So the knock was Cowboys haven't beaten a winning team as of yet, and and all Stephen A's out there in the world. So they beat a winning team. The Seahawks are no pushovers. Dak balled out 334 yards, throws for 3 touchdowns, and the Cowboys have a 14-game winning streak at AT&T Stadium. You had Tony Pollard adding a touchdown, and on the Seahawks side, you had DK Metcalf, who's a monster, 6 receptions, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. he was killing Deron Bland. I
Yeah.
have to add that. That's something that needs to be corrected by Dallas very quickly. Deron Bland got exposed, like when he's not jumping the route and picking off a pass,
And that's what
running it
happens when
back
you
for a
gamble.
touchdown.
Yeah.
But not even just that. He was just getting burnt on, like, seems like every route. He had no answers for Metcalf. Metcalf
Yeah.
was killing Deron Bland. And coming into this week, he was being spoken about as Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know.
Right.
It's possible he could still win it, but that performance.
Yeah. I like, again, I think that's his to lose. I mean, unless somebody jumps out and has a sack party in the last, 4 or 5 games of the season.
Well, Khalil Mack, he's had like 2 sacks in the last 3 weeks, so
Yeah.
it could happen. And the Seahawks gave a very valiant effort. Cowboys win that 141-35. Any thoughts on that game before we move on?
Shouts out to the Cowboys, man. They're clicking at the right time, man, and they're beating teams that they should beat. Looking convincing. So salute to the boys.
Yeah, salute to the
Salute to Dak.
boys.
Salute to Dak, man.
Dak and the boys, they're balling. He's balling on the MVP level. Shout out to the Giants, who had a very good week as well.
Had a very good weekend.
Shout out to the G-Men.
Had a very good weekend, my G. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, any weekend you don't take an L is a good weekend to me.
Exactly. Big up those G-Men. So
Yeah,
the Colts won a close one, 31-28. We're going to circle back to the G-Men.
Nah, we don't have to.
Oh, I thought you might have wanted to circle back to Tommy DeVito and
we all good, man. We all
things.
good. We all good.
You good on that? All right.
We all good on that, bro.
So the Colts pipped the Titans 31-28, improved to 7-5, staying in the playoff hunt. Gardner Minshew throws for 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they did the thing, man. They did the thing. Pittman, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Any thoughts on that game?
I think that keeps let me see how that playoff picture is looking. No, I think Indy's not. Oh, yeah. Indy's still up in there. So yeah, that keeps them firmly entrenched. And if I'm not mistaken, they got one of the easiest schedules left this season. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Put it this way, man, the Jags, it's not a lock. It's not a lock for Jacksonville.
Right. We'll see.
In that AFC South.
Well, the Colts are playing with their backup quarterback. Gardner Minshew's their backup because Alexander got hurt earlier in the season, and the Colts are hanging in there, 7-5. We had a shootout between the Chargers and the Patriots. The Chargers give the Patriots the donut, 6-0. Do we even have to talk about that game? Justin Herbert and the gang, very pedestrian, poor effort. Well, interestingly enough, it's like the 3rd straight game that the Patriots have lost, giving up 10 or fewer points. Shows you how good their defense is, but how futile their offense is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Coach Belichick is on the chopping block. Moving along.
What do you think is the issue in with the Chargers, man? You think it's their coach? You think it's the coaching? That's that to be 5-7, man. And Herbert is a good quarterback. I forgot who it was. I was watching something where they kind of suggested. I think it was your boy Acho on ESPN. Is he on ESPN or is he on Fox? I don't remember. I was flipping channels.
Sam Acho.
Yeah. I think he's
on
ESPN.
Fox on the weekends.
Oh, he's on Fox. Okay.
On the weekends, and then during the week he's ESPN.
And he kind of alluded to the fact that Herbert gets all the praise when the team is doing well, but gets none of the blame, or they try and claim that he has no talent over there.
It's a couple things. Well, I know for one, I know the coach has a game management problem towards the end of the games. I've seen him get pipped quite a few times. I think their team loses the most narrowest games by 3 or less points. They've lost like 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, some statistic along those lines. And they don't win the close games. And that starts from coaching. That starts from the mentality of the team, which comes from the coaching and what he instills in them. They don't win the close ones. And even in sports at that level, you got to have a little bit of luck, a little fortune on your side. And the Chargers, they're always on the wrong side of the fortune ball. So I'm not gonna blame the coaching exclusively. It's a combination of things.
I got you.
Know.
You think they keep the coach after this season?
He's been keeping his job this year after year. So I don't see them getting rid of him yet. Although it's kind of disappointing to see the Chargers at 5-7.
Yeah.
They still might make the playoffs because the AFC conference is becoming a big cluster over there. So
yeah, a lot of AFC teams hovering around 5 and 6 wins right now.
Yeah, 5-6, 6-5, 5-7. So you never know. In the last month, a lot of things could happen.
Yep.
Moving along, we got the Lions 33 over the Saints, who put up 28 points. Any thoughts on that game? Derek Carr throws for 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 226 yards as usual. So, I mean, what do you expect out of the Lions? The Saints, surprisingly enough, they're like, even though they've like lost 4 out of their last 5, they're like still right in the hunt. I think they play the Falcons this week for control of their NFC South. Matter of fact, they do play the Falcons this week.
I think Detroit is finding ways to squeak by, man. I mean, you know, all that the dominance that they've displayed towards the beginning of the season. You know, they're starting to show their true colors or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about getting hot at the right time, you know, for the most part. And, you know, let's see what Detroit does. They're still very much, you know, right up there with all the other, you know, 9 wins. So
they're right there at the top of their division, 9-3. The Packers are coming along, and they're right on their heels. I believe the Packers are 7-5. Saints are falling out at 5-7, fading away slowly. But it's going to be interesting to see when the Lions match up against either the Cowboys, the 49ers, or the Eagles. You know, even a team like the Vikings seem to be giving them problems nowadays.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wait and see on that. Moving along to another born stormer of a game, the Falcons 13 over the New York Jets, who put up 8 points. Comments? Anything good, bad, or indifferent on the New York Jets? The Falcons are 6-6 now.
Thank God for the Rangers and the Knicks so far. Knock on wood, because New York sports is hurting right now.
The football teams are not performing well at all. I have not seen both teams performing at such a terrible, I ain't even going to say pedestrian, such a terrible,
lackluster. And I think
I can't even say lackluster, because lackluster is like you lose 14-28. Like, you have not scored touchdowns. Like,
I say lackluster because when your starting quarterback goes down, and this is more so in the case of the Jets than the Giants, there's expected to be a certain level of fall off. But
that's lackluster. Lackluster is like a little, you lacking something. It's something, like you said, fell off a little bit. terrible, bro. Can't even say lackluster because there was some bright spots. You're like, it was a lackluster performance. Their defense is showing up 13-8, but
Right.
still, you can't score touchdowns. That's the problem. Then they put in Tim Boyle. It wasn't any better. I think they scored their first 2 points was a safety. Then after the safety, he drove them down the field. They could only muster up a field goal. And then from there, they just fell off the table. And the Falcons weren't that much better either. 13-8. Like I said, it wasn't a shootout.
Right. And I don't know what's up with the quarterback hopscotch because they're talking about putting Zach Wilson back out there Sunday.
It's terrible.
Or I don't know if he asked to start. I don't know what the case is, but yeah.
They want him to start, and he's declined. He's like shying away from it. But my thing is, bro, you better get back in there. Like, if you're quitting, then it's going to be very difficult for you to remain employed in the NFL.
Yeah, for
whether
sure.
you're a starter or a backup.
For sure.
And Aaron Rodgers is trying to come back for December 24th week. And that is going to be a highly questionable decision. But I think he'll try to mess with everybody's brain and mind as he's known to do. And he'll just play just to shut people up, shut the naysayers up that said he couldn't do it, because he's on pace to be able to come back. Now, I'm not gonna get back and forth with you and you believe it, you don't believe it.
Oh, no. I wasn't even gonna say whether I believe or not. What I was gonna say is there's no sport. I mean, I think football more than any other is a sport where you don't want to go out there on the field and risk it for no possibility of any. Like, he has nothing to gain from going out there other than satisfying his own ego. You know, go out there and play to try and prove a point. You know, I don't know, but he knows his body better than I do. So salutes to that cat, you know, to Aaron Rodgers, if he really is in a condition to come back out there and contribute to the team's success.
Yeah, well, he did some hyper technical procedure, which basically like he kind of like connected or grafted something onto the Achilles. And if he can come on and, like you said, it's up to the player. And just to prove to everyone who said no that he could do it, he might want to do it. But as far as like realistically, the Jets' playoff chances, they're 4-8 now. So if you were the coach, I know you would bench him. I'd bench him also because there's nothing to play for. But Aaron Rodgers is going to continue to try to be Aaron Rodgers. Exactly. What say you? Flipping the coin. What are the odds of him getting on the field just to prove the naysayers wrong?
I don't see it. That like I said, that would be dumb.
No, if you're Aaron Rodgers, not if you. If you're Aaron Rodgers, what are the chances of him getting on the field?
I mean, he's just been showing everybody that every week. All you do is, you know, during pregame, all you do is see him out there throwing passes and dropbacks and planting on that foot and all of that. So, you know, again, like I said, hats off to him. Salute to his doctors if they got him in good enough shape where re-injuring that Achilles is not a concern. But again, like I said, there's so little to gain from him returning this season. The only thing that I can think of is, like I said, to, you know, impress some people or maybe make some people eat crow, like me, for instance, who said that he wouldn't be able to come back and be effective this season. But again, with the way people are dropping from minor contact and, you know, certain non-contact or planting injuries or whatever, the way he got hurt during the first play to end his season, I don't even see the benefit to it at all.
Right. First series, first 4 plays. You're absolutely right. So I give it a 40-60 shot that he'll come back to try to shut up the naysayers and stroke his own ego. He's that
Right.
type of cat. He likes to stroke his own ego. So, hey, we'll see. Upset of the week as we move along. Cardinals 24 over the Steelers, who now fall to 7-5. The upstart Cardinals improved to 3-10. So they're winning themselves out of the Caleb Williams marathon, because that's what it's gonna be. Because he's not even gonna play, so he's gonna be leaving early. He's leaving USC early, right? So Kyler Murray shows up, does what Kyler Murray does, throws a touchdown, runs for another, scrambles around a lot. T. McBride catches a touchdown, and they surprise the Steelers, who were supposed to win that game handily. But Kenny Pickens did go out in that game
I was about to say
due to injury.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. If you don't have a viable backup in this league, you are going to run into problems. Any thoughts on the Cardinals? Now, that I know you were surprised by that one. Just them winning, period.
Well, with Pickett getting hurt, not so much. And then two, people are calling Pittsburgh the best bad team or the worst good team. I don't even know which way you want. I think the best bad team in the league this season. Again, if you pull up the combined scores of their opponents,
who's calling them that? You?
No, there've been other teams, especially before they got rid of Canada. They're not a great team, man. They're not a good team, and they've been overachieving. As a matter of fact, they've been giving Tomlin credit for the team overachieving this season, supposedly. But I think it's just catching up with them, and then Pickett getting hurt. I'm kind of surprised, much like the Philly and San Fran game. I'm kind of surprised, but not really.
I'm very surprised, but with the starting quarterback going out, then it definitely changes the outcome and the results of the game.
Right.
But the fact that they only put up 10 points again just shows that their offense leaves a lot to be desired. They put up 400 total yards last week. This week went back to being pedestrian without the starting QB. Without Kenny in there, it wasn't happening. The Pittsburgh Steelers could not put up any points on the board. So that's what it is. They took an L to the Cardinals. So it happens, though. But I think they lack offense. I don't think they're a bad team. They're just a gritty, hard-nosed defensive team, and they don't have that much off. They're not an explosive team. I just don't think they are a good team. What's up, Tennessee Williams? Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers find ways to win. We definitely gonna get to that in a second. So any comments? The Steelers, they win the division. They make the playoffs. Excuse me. Do they make the playoffs? I believe the Ravens had in that division at 9-3.
Yeah, I don't see Pittsburgh getting in.
They're not getting in the playoffs?
Well, I won't say not getting in, but
they're 7-5.
Yeah. I don't well, they definitely got winning that division. We know Baltimore got that division, but like I said, man, it's so tight, man. Like, the Broncos are 6-6, Bills are 6-6. The Bengals
7-5, right?
7-5, but they're so close. And then with them losing their starting QB, it can sway either way. So I think it's too early to tell if they'll actually make the playoffs.
Well, right now, if the season ended, they'd be in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
they're on the inside right now.
I don't discount Mike Tomlin. If there's a way for the Steelers to get in, he's going to get them there. He's definitely going to get them there. So we'll keep an eye out on the Steelers and see what they do bounce back week. The Commanders get trounced to get mollywopped by the Dolphins 45-15. And the Dolphins improved to 9-3. The Commanders fall to 4-9. Sam Howell continues his bad luck, man. He gets no protection, and they're on pace to sack Sam Howell like I think it's like 60 times this year. So that's not a good thing ever.
Not at all.
Tua Tagovailoa, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, who's on pace to break Calvin Johnson's passing record for receiving 1,964 yards. He's on pace for like 2,100 yards.
Yeah,
Believe
yeah.
it or not.
Further trying to fuel that push for MVP consideration, man.
It's a quarterback-driven league. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Jerry Rice was the closest and to get votes, and not even the GOAT got it.
He was the closest. Well, he wasn't the last. Didn't
Randy Moss got 1 vote. It's
he only got 1. Yeah, okay.
I ain't even gonna count that. He wasn't even in like. But yeah, Randy Moss got 1 vote.
Gotcha.
But Tyreek Hill, we'll see. Because the argument now is it Tua or is it Tyreek? Is it Tyreek or Tua? And then people are saying it's Tua, or is it Tyreek making Tua better or Tua making Tyreek better?
Here's the other question I was going to ask you though, since you said it's a QB race. What QB is the front runner right now?
Oh no, I don't know. Let me
we can come back to that.
Through these scores, yeah. The Texans 22 over the Broncos. CJ Stroud gets back on the winning side of things. CJ Stroud leads the Texans 274 yards, 1 touchdown. Collier had a monster game, 191 yards and a touchdown. So definitely had a couple monsters this week. Their competition, the Broncos, they snapped their 5-game winning streak. They had a chance to win at the game. So the Texans pipped them 22-17.
Yeah,
they still had a chance to win at the game. Texas applied the pressure at the right point in time in the 4th quarter because they were definitely driving to try to come back. And they fall by, 5 points to the Texans? Any thoughts on that game?
I was about to say, was that a pivotal game because they're in the same division, but they're not in the same division. I just realized that. So, yeah, it was close, man. Again, the Texans are considered a good team this season, and Denver kept it close to the end. So, shouts out to Houston for doing what they're supposed to do. And again, salute to Denver, who, I unfairly gave the business earlier this year, but they've shown themselves to be a respectable team this season.
They're in the middle of that pack, as we mentioned. They're at 6-6.
Yeah,
moving along to a very bad team, terrible team. Unfortunately, there are like 2, 3, 4 terrible teams in the NFL this season. The Buccaneers 21 over the lowly Panthers, 21-18. The lowly Panthers
and gave up 18 points to the Panthers.
The Bucs,
yeah.
Well, they do have professionals playing on the team. They just have not been able to put it all together. That's all I can say on that. I can't even say any given Sunday because they didn't win, but at the same time, they have pride. They want to play. What's going to happen when they finally win another game? And it's like, come on, you're taking us out of the QB race, the QB marathon, the Caleb Williams marathon.
Hey, listen, man, I was just like, man, if anything, Carolina has to have some kind of inspiration right now to just try and screw up that pick for Chicago, man. You know what I'm saying? If anything, that should be the incentive to go out there and play their hardest, knowing they're gonna have the first pick this year and they got to give that up to Chicago.
Get that, right?
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, the Panthers have the number 1 pick, while the Bears have the Panthers number 1 pick, right?
Correct.
So now the Bears have Justin Fields. Do they draft Caleb Williams?
Well, so here's the thing now. He's hurt, so I don't even know. Like,
Who, Bryce or
no,
Justin Fields?
Fields.
Oh, I thought he came back.
Did he? Did he? Oh, that's right. That's right. He did come back. So I don't know, man. That's a tough one right there. That's a tough one
Because if
because
you
he
draft a quarterback, you're like giving up on Justin Fields, right?
not
Does that
necessarily.
send
I
that
mean, if you
message?
draft a quarterback with the first pick, that's
Yeah,
not showing a lot of confidence in your QB. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Do you draft talent or do you draft by need, and then have the Chicago Bears figured out what their need is?
right.
I just think, man, they're gonna get Caleb, man, and end up in the same situation they're in with Justin, for real, man. To
I was just about to
find
say
some way
that.
to screw it up, man. So you might be
Right.
better off sticking with Justin, man, and trying to get some assets, man, and just try and build that team up, man.
That's possible. That's definitely possible.
Especially if
Buccaneers.
you're not 100% convinced that all of the woes in Chicago are due to the players underperforming and not necessarily the coaching.
Right, because they cannot seem to get Justin Fields right. And it's gonna be about that time to start looking at other options if you're the Chicago Bears. So we'll keep our eye out on that. Moving along, we have Matthew Stafford leading the LA Rams over the Browns 36-19. The Browns 7-5. The Rams improved to 6-6. Matthew Stafford threw for 3 touchdowns, a little short of 300 yards. Any thoughts on that game? The Rams are back because without Stafford, he's not. They're not the same team. And there's some people are saying that the Rams could upset any of the contending teams over, even though they're only at 6-6. They have a Super Bowl winning coach. They have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and they have the cachet and the talent to do it.
This is true. And even without them having their starting QB, Cleveland throughout the season has had one of the best defenses. Right. So for them to drop 36 on Cleveland, man,
right.
Hey,
he threw for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
Matthew Stafford is no joke as far as like throwing that pigskin. He can air it out with the best of them.
Correct.
The Browns fall at 7-5. Another team that's going to be right there on that playoff bubble, right? So we're going to have to. It's going to get very interesting, and then it's going to be 1 week where we're going to be talking about tiebreakers and different scenarios and equations. It's going to feel like we're going to be in a calculus class where we're going to have to be breaking down the playoff picture, but it's definitely developing, and there's a lot in that pack. Another this was an upset to me. I didn't see this one coming.
It's definitely an upset.
The Packers 27 over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Jordan Love, man, coming into his own.
Jordan Love throws for 3 touchdowns, another monster of the week. And they basically, I'm not going to say they shut the Chiefs down, but they held them in check. Held them to 6 points first half. Then they only put up 13 for the second. So, and the Packers, they were controlling the game for the most part. I saw parts of that game, and they were in control for the most part. I didn't see them like they were in trouble.
No, you're absolutely right. And then they just have the it seems like, well, it's still the jury's still out on Jordan Love right now, but it looks like, by all accounts right now, that Green Bay will continue having good QBs in the fold.
Quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
He's their quarterback. He's their quarterback. And they improved to 6-6. The Chiefs fall at 8-4. But even though the Chiefs' record's 8-4, I don't think they're a team that you want to see in the playoffs anyway, whether they have home field advantage or not. And rounding out the week slate of games, you had a barn burner last night. The Bengals 34 as they pepped the Jaguars, who put up 31 points. Unfortunately, the Jaguars lost Trevor Lawrence at the closing, the second half of that game, which, was definitely an advantage for the Bengals, but it does not take away from the performance of Jake Browning, who went 32 for 37, putting up 354 yards,
Crazy.
rushed for one, threw for one. He's definitely a monster of the week. You got your man Jamal Chase, who put up 149 yards, caught a touchdown on 11 receptions. Any thoughts on that game? Boy, he threw for 85% completion rate.
Yeah, definitely a barn burner for real, man.
In his second start. Through
Lawrence, they said it's a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
Out for now, but if come playoff time, provided. Matter of fact, he might be back before the playoffs, but who knows?
Nah, he said that don't rule him out for this week.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Said don't rule him out for this week. He's never missed a game since he's come into the league. I think he has like 47 straight starts.
Gotcha.
So we shall definitely see. So now, power top 5 NFL teams right now. Or you want to start AFC, NFC? Go ahead, take it away.
You mean top 5 in each conference or top 5?
Nah. Top five. I mean, I start in each conference and then I narrow it down. But however you come up to your top 5.
Top 5 in the league right now. San Fran number 1. I still got to put Philly number 2, followed by Miami, Baltimore, and Dallas.
All right. You got that Stephen A bug. Keep putting Dallas. It's like it hurts you to put Dallas in your top 5. He been grappling with that for like 3 weeks. He found the Lions. He's trying to put the Lions ahead of the Cowboys. Every week, you're running out of teams to put ahead of the Cowboys now. But
I gotta give them they do. They clicking right now. They've
been clicking for like the last month. Ever since they lost that narrow 27, 20, 28, 23 game to the Eagles, they've been clicking on all cylinders. Dak is playing on the MVP level. So my top 5, after the performance of the 49ers and the convincing manner in which they won and the physicality, their route running, Debo Samuel's a monster, CMC's a monster. They make Brock Purdy look very, very good, man. They make him look good because I was watching the schemes and they make him look very good. Like when one or the other's out and he just has to air it out to Ayuk, he comes back down to earth. But when you got Debo and CMC clicking and George Kittle clicking and Ayuk clicking, it's hard to stop them boys. So I'm going to go 49ers 1. 2, I'm going to go Ravens right now because Kansas City seems to have fallen. 3's Cowboys. 4 is Eagles, which we'll find out if I'm right or not this weekend. And 5, I'll say Chiefs. Chiefs at 5. Because the Lions nor the Dolphins have really showed me any quality wins over like a tough opponent or team that you may wonder if they could beat or not. Like, yeah, they'll beat up on a team 45-10, but then when they play like a team like the Ravens or the Chiefs, they're not showing up. So I'm not ranking the Dolphins that high, but that's That's my top 5 right there. Any closing thoughts before we move on from the helmet to helmet segment onto reaching the summit?
No, nope.
All right, we're going to be backpedaling like Travis Hunter through the championship week slate of NCAA football games. Of course, we're going to start off with that. Then the selection committee chooses a CFP teams. Did FSU get snubbed? I'm just going to run through the scores, then we're going to get down to it. Washington Huskies beat the Oregon Ducks for the second time this year, pipping them 34-31 to win, I believe it's the last Pac-12 championship.
Yep.
Then you have Liberty. How the hell Liberty get in there? Conference USA, I think that's just written into the rules where they have to get a bowl game. So the Liberty Conference is Liberty wins the Conference USA championship. 49, putting up 49 points over New Mexico State, who put up 35. Any thoughts on that game right there?
Nope.
Okay. No doubt. Moving along. Oh, in the previous game, Michael Penix Jr., he put up over 300 yards.
And a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go. And moving along to the SEC championship, which was the game that threw everything into haywire for the committee. Alabama pips Georgia 27-24. Georgia was the number 1 team at the time, and they get pipped. Any thoughts on that game?
Alabama staked their claim, man. You can't deny beat who many people considered the consensus team, the consensus number 1 team in the season. So shouts out to Alabama on their playoff bid.
We're going to circle back to that. Michigan over Iowa. They give Iowa the donut 26-0.
Handling their
business. And then finally, the ACC championship, Florida State 16 over Louisville, who put up 6 points. Any thoughts on the ACC championship game?
No, man. Salute to Florida State. Sorry they didn't make it in that playoff, but next year.
They won their championship, ACC champs.
Absolutely.
Texas over Oklahoma State, 49-21, as they capture the Big 12 championship. And then finally you have SMU over TCU for the American Athletic Championship, 26-14.
Over Tulane.
Over Tulane, excuse me. Yeah, I thought it was TCU.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes were deceiving me. But yeah, in any instance now, so now the rankings now are as follows. Michigan number 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4. Now, FSU falls to 5, and then UGA falls to 6. Now, this is a problem that I have with this whole scenario here. And then you have OSU at 7, Oregon at 8. Now, you had the Seminoles at 4. And as I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago, around the time Jordan Travis got hurt,
right?
They've been ranked about 4 all season. They've been about number 4 for like the past month and a half. So now Jordan Travis goes down. All of a sudden, they fall to 5. They were put back in the number 4 slot last week. Alabama was about 7. And Georgia was number 1. So now the problem that I have is you're going off these slated games. Georgia falls from 1 to 6. Then you have FSU fall to 5. And then Alabama go from 7 to 4. I mean, to me, that's just big business because at the end of the day, are you giving the team with the best record who've won their conference, who've won the games that they played, who've won against opponents that you put in front of them, it looks like it's a business because, and I heard this ushered by Paul Feinbaum. He was the main advocate for this. He kept saying, you can't leave both Georgia and Alabama out. So then how did Georgia fall from 1 to 6 and Alabama go from number 7 to 4? And that's where I'm like, then you're taking a team like FSU who went 13-0 and they didn't even make the playoffs. Any thoughts on how this whole scenario goes as far as you see it?
When you have so many different conferences and so many different teams, schools that have the ability to go undefeated or with one loss, and then on top of that, who they beat is a major determining factor on their positioning. Unfortunately, you're going to have, call it casualties of war or whatever. Alabama beat who everyone considered was the number one team in the nation, in the land. And to your point, it's not fair and it's not right for them just because they've lost their quarterback to lose position or be considered inferior or not worthy of a chance at the national title. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, the selection committee wants to put the teams that will be the most evenly matched. And I think they were basing that off of who Alabama beat as opposed to who Florida beat this season. And then,
excuse me.
And keeping an SEC out of the championship game. I tell you what, I forgot who it was. I think it was I read it somewhere, but they were saying, ironically enough, it was Florida State's athletic director was one of the people that voted against expanding the championship into a playoff this season, and kind of turn around and bit him in the butt a little bit, something there.
Well, the way the whole thing is set up.
Yeah.
The way the whole thing is set up, you have 4 playoff spots and you have 5, you have Power 5 conferences, right? Yep. So from the beginning, there's a possibility of them being left out. Yep. Alabama was left out last season. Now, the committee is comprised of 13 people who are making the decision. So it's 13 people, and it's like there's no transparency. It's like a secret ballot. So you don't know who's voting for what team, but they go through a very extensive process, right?
Right.
But now the narrative by Paul Feinbaum of ESPN and other people, they started that from like 3 weeks ago. Paul Feinbaum started advocating for Alabama like 3 weeks ago. Every week he was coming on ESPN. It would be a travesty if you leave out Alabama out of the SFP playoffs. Like, why, bro? They did not run the table. FSU did. Now, if Nick Saban, quote unquote, as Deion Sanders calls him, of the Aflac commercials, the godfather of Division I football, if he was the coach at FSU, they would have been in the playoffs. But because he's the coach at Alabama, you know what I mean? So it's something like the merit of the players is not the total determining factor. You have 13 people in the room making a decision, and there is like, are you going by the eye test? Like, I've heard it said, oh, well, Tulane didn't show up against Georgia, and they got blown out after they beat Michigan based on the record. So they didn't want a repeat of that.
Right.
But it is what it is. I think that they have to take into account like this whole process of picking the 4 teams. First of all, as you mentioned, it should be at least under the BCS, it was at least 8. I don't know whose idea was to make it just 4. That's the asinine because you have so many conferences, so many teams, as you mentioned. So just to choose 4 playoff teams, you're asking for something like that where you had to snub a very deserving FSU team to be in the playoffs, to have a 1-loss Alabama tie team who made it over them, and they're like in the one slot above them. And I wouldn't have a problem with it if the same committee had not had FSU in the number 4 spot for like over a month and change now. That's one of the problems
I think at the end of the day, it's easy to justify because Florida State has only played 3 ranked teams this season.
But that's the thing, though.
Whereas Alabama beat 4 ranked teams, including one of the teams that FSU.
So my thing is, then you should have had Alabama ranked ahead of FSU to begin with. Then you should have had you should not have had Alabama ranked at 7 and FSU ranked at 4. Then you should have had Alabama around 4 or 5. So then, if they beat Georgia, if they would have beaten Georgia, which they did, then you could justify bumping them up to 4, 3, 2. But you take them from 7 all the way to like 4. A lot of people are saying that it's like common knowledge now. Like no one wanted to see FSU play without Jordan Travis.
Exactly.
And that's to the detriment. That hurts the rest of the team.
Only because they didn't think it would be a good product. The good thing about that is this is the last year that they'll have to deal with that problem.
Right.
Next year it should be a little more evenly laid out, even though it's still going to be a selection process, to pick the 12 teams and where they're going to be positioned or whatever. But we at least we won't have a travesty like this, a deserving team missing an opportunity at the playoffs as they expanded to 12 teams next year.
I say the human element is subject to error
all the time.
Put the metrics into the metrics into the analytics, and let the computer decide. Let the metrics decide. Do you think it'll ever get to that? Because that'd be the fairest way.
I hope not.
Why not?
Because then you'll have teams that. I think
all of the metrics are going to be in there. Strength of schedule, all of that are going to be in there. The only thing that you're going to have to add in is what? Injuries? You're going to add injuries?
I guess so. Yeah, and that's a big reason why, nobody wants to say it, but it's like, how they say the worst kept secret that, Travis going down really hurt FSU's chances at making the playoff. I
said that from the rip when he went down. I was like, wow.
Because remember, because they dropped them in the rankings just off of that one game.
Exactly, and they didn't even lose. They didn't lose the game. They said, "Oh, we don't like how they performed," even though they still won the game. They don't like how they performed, but I knew it was because Jordan Travis went down. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They're still going to be in a bowl game, but they're not going to be in a playoff contention. Moving along, unless you have any other thoughts on championship week.
No, brother. We can keep it pushing.
All right. That's peace. Let's talk about the 4 Heisman finalists. You're going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. You're going to have Bo Nix. You're going to have Michael Penix Jr. And there's one that I'm missing. Oh, how could I forget? The dude I've been picking up as a monster of the week almost every week is Jaden Daniels, Mr. Touchdown himself. Any predictions on the Heisman Heisman winner?
I don't know. That's a good one. I'm thinking Penix probably. Just off the strength of how the team is doing. But to your point, man, I'm with you. I kind of been following Jaden Daniels the last couple of weeks. Now we can talk about the Giants. When I've been eyeing my Giants quarterback prospects.
Is he coming out though?
I think so. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's announced it or not, but yeah. So I don't know, but it's probably Penix award to lose this year.
And you say this because, well, we know his play has been phenomenal, just like all the other finalists. But do you think it's because his Huskies in the rankings at number 2?
I think so. When you have so many evenly matched talent-wise and record-wise, man, it always boils down to what the team does. We hate to say that, we never want to admit, or no one wants to admit, that a lot of awards are postseason awards. They always say it's regular season awards, but I really think the postseason kind of influences stuff.
Okay. Bo Nix, I think he his couple losses hurt him.
Yeah.
Although he's only the one of two of the quarterbacks, Jane Daniels being the other to throw for 40 touchdowns. Michael Penix threw for 33. Jane Daniels, only the second quarterback in college football history to throw for 40, rush for 10, rush for 1,000.
Yeah,
the other being your little man in AZ, Kyler Perry. Excuse me, Kyler Murray. Well, now remember, Kyler used to ball.
You said when he was in college.
He's a little man.
Yo, you remember little homie that used to come around the block, son? Nah.
You little man. Yeah, well, he's his second one. So if Jaden Daniels if LSU had a better record and then suffer those, what they have, like 2-3 losses, I think that it would have been his to lose. But because the Huskies have a better record, I think Michael Penix Jr. is going to win it. But it'll be hard to deny Jaden Daniels putting up 40, throwing for 40, rushing for at least 10, rushing for 1,000. That's a formidable resume right there.
For sure.
Talking about that. So you're going Michael Penix Jr. as well?
Yes.
Okay. And the runner-up, do they give a runner-up award?
I don't think so.
Nah,
I think they have other. I think they have other awards, like offensive player of the year and different awards.
The award,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. So we'll cover those, but definitely the Heisman is the one to bag. That's the bag. They don't get no loot though, right? They just get that trophy.
I mean, no, yeah, I don't think they get any money for that.
All right, moving along. Round ball around the world. We're going to be picking and rolling through the rundown in the NBA. The In Season Tourney quarterfinal round is playing out. We seeing any scores yet? We have
my Knicks are down
Pelicans
right now.
Bounced in the Kings. Yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say, Celtics lost yesterday to the Pacers, 122 to 112.
112, yeah.
And Pelicans beat the Kings, surprisingly, yesterday, 127 to 117. So Pelicans and the Pacers advanced. Pacers are waiting for the winner of Knicks and Bucks. Knicks are down right now by 2, 41 to 39. Lakers and Sun play at 10. And the winner of that faces the Pelicans on Thursday, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. Thursday is the two semifinal games, right? And then Saturday is the championship game in Vegas.
Gotcha. So your thoughts? Who's walking away with the inaugural NBA In Season Tournament Cup? You calling it a cup or a trophy?
It's a trophy. It's a trophy. It's definitely a trophy. We keep the cups for soccer and stuff like that. Soccer and car racing. But yeah.
Don't forget hockey.
True. The ultimate cup. You're right about that.
Yeah. So you got snatching the trophy.
The Pacers are looking pretty tough right now. They have one of the most high potent offenses in the league this season.
They're ranked number 1.
They're clicking right now. I had fingers crossed that that the Knicks would pull out some kind of miracle. But at the same time, I'm just happy with how good the Knicks are doing right now. It's still a tight game though. So I think the Pacers are a better team than us right now. But who's to say what'll happen in a 1-game situation to see who goes.
That's debatable.
They're a better team than us?
Right. They're at 11 and 9. The Knicks are 11 and 8. Now, mind you, they did beat the Celtics last night. Halliburton, who's arguably if not the best point guard, if not the best point guard, one of the best point guards. He's definitely a rising star in the league. But Jalen Brunson has been balling out of his mind, bro. And when Randle shows up and helps him out, and when R.J. Barrett is on the sidelines licking his wounds, the Knicks are a formidable team. Like R.J. Barrett, if he can stay healthy, that improves their chances dramatically. I'm not even just talking about for the trophy, the in-season trophy. I'm talking about just for the season.
Right.
Barrett has to understand that he is a vital piece to the whole Knicks, what the Knicks are trying to do in New York. He has to understand that. And
I think he has the understanding. It's just that he has to work on his consistency, man. That's always been the biggest issue with RJ is his consistency.
Well, that's a lack of understanding. If you're not zoned in to know, like, I need to show up every night. Like, I can't one night just zone out and give like 7 or 8 points. And then on the next night, I drop 29, and then the next night I drop 11. Then the next night I drop, 25. Like, he has to show up every night. Brunson, well, thankfully, Randall's got my message. He got my APB that I sent out on him for him to show up and show out. So he's been given that dynamic duo, that 1-2 combo with Brunson effect. Now we need RJ Barrett. If he does not show up like consistently, we're going to send an APB out on Barrett, because every time we sent out an APB out on somebody, they have showed up. We sent the APB out on Brandon Cooks. Started showing up.
I think the good thing about I think the good thing right now about RJ's inconsistency, man, is it's kind of been masked.
The APB out on
it's been masked a little by the play of the Villanova boys off the bench.
Yeah, that's possible, but they still need RJ Barrett in order to contend with the teams like the Celtics and the teams like the Bucks. He had during the whole season, but especially during the playoffs, he needs to show up. And to your point, the Villanova boys are showing up, but is that because RJ Barrett has been like so inconsistent? And if he's not consistent, then he's hurt. And then if he's not hurt, he's inconsistent. So we need him to show up. So that's my sentiments. Any update on the score before we move on from the Knicks?
47-53. Milwaukee.
They're pulling away. The Bucks are pulling away.
I mean, it's the first half. Yeah, they went on a little run, but it's been a close game the whole game so far.
All right, and then the Lakers moving along to the East. The Lakers and the Suns are also up tonight. So the Suns, again, have not put their big three on the floor, I don't think, for any time this season. Beal is out again.
I think there was one or two games where they were all playing, but yeah, Beal I think is only really played.
When Beal was out, when Beal played, I think Beal played 1 or 2 games this season.
Right.
When Beal was out, Booker was out. So they have not fielded all three of them on the court during the regular season thus far. Yeah, so moving along, who we got tonight? Suns or Lakers?
I don't know. Let's go Lakers.
Oh,
Let's go.
that was a pick 'em.
I'm a Bron fan. Let's go Lakers. Let's see what happens. Maybe Anthony Davis will feel like coming outside tonight.
Talk about Mr. Inconsistency.
Yeah.
So now, do you think like the in-season tournament has added extra competitiveness during the regular season?
Absolutely. That game, I'll tell you, the Pacers and Celtics game was, I think just from the standpoint of how the Pacers did in that game was exciting. To
Right.
see how they put it on Boston. In the Pelicans game, the Pelicans and the Kings game in the beginning was a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely the few mid-season, the few in-season tournament games that I've watched, even like the earlier rounds, man, they kind of had like a playoff. I don't know if definitely the later rounds and definitely the games that are played so far have definitely had a playoff atmosphere to them. But even the beginning games, I don't know if it was the color of the courts that people had to get used to or the excitement of the season just beginning or whatever it was. But I think, so far I would absolutely call the in-season tournament a success. I thought I had some comprehension on how it worked too. But now the way I understand it is if like the Knicks, Alan Hahn had mentioned something about if the Knicks lose to Milwaukee tonight, that we have to play a makeup game for our schedule or something to that effect against Boston. Not to mention the fact that we still have, I think, 3 more games against Milwaukee, 3 more regular season games against Milwaukee this season. So it's kind of, I know the regular season games are not really pertinent to it, but I don't understand what he meant by New York having to play Boston to make up a game if the in-season tournament games were all played during the regular season schedules. So that's some clarification that I have to get again. But other than that, it's been pretty good. The one thing I will say is I know towards the end of the qualifying games to see who gets in and who doesn't, there was some controversy regarding the manner in which some teams had to play because tiebreakers were based on point totals, point differentials. So like you had a game with Boston where they played.
Blowouts?
Yeah, I think it was I forgot who they played, but the game was it was Chicago. The game was pretty much out of hand. And unfortunately for Boston to get the seeding that they desired in the in-season tournament, they had to run the score up. So they started doing the not the hacker Shaq, but the hacker what's the center's name from Detroit? I can't remember his name, but they just started Drummond. Yeah, they just started hacking away. Like anytime he got the ball, to put him at the line to get the ball back to be able to have another opportunity to score. And both Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they expressed their reservations about it. The Boston coach talked about it in the press conference. He even tried to smooth it over with Billy Donovan. They had a talk about it. Billy Donovan was obviously put off by it. He didn't like how it went down. But he claimed that he understood it was the nature of the in-season tournament that forced Boston to do that. But I think they need to come up with a better tie-breaking system, number one. Number two, I don't see the issue with just, as opposed to mixing up, because they basically took each of the divisions in the conference and jumbled them up. And they did that based on, I think they said the team records from the last season. So I think they need to have that also play into it. So it's less of a, of a situation. What did Jaylen Brown say? He was like, you encourage teams to play the right way and to play the game the right way and play with integrity. And then here you have the in-season tournament where point differential counts for your seeding. And, for 2 or 3 games out the season, you don't want to play the right way, so it kind of sends a mixed message and a bad message. And I hope they come up with a better way to determine tiebreakers than point differential.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. Billy Donovan solved that by winning the games. That's it. Or just telling your team to step up. I can see them having to maybe tweak that, but I don't have a problem with it because it happens in college ball all the time. How many molly whoppings have we seen in college? And then you have to ask yourself, do you want to teach your team or coach your team to?
But I think
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Do you want to teach your team or coach your team to take the pedal metal, your foot off the pedal, off the gas, and then what? You know what I mean? Like the thing is, you're there to win. I understand your point and some of the reservations, but that's the game. You're there to win. Did Boston?
Yeah, but if the game is out of hand, and I don't think college works like that. I don't think college works by.
No, I'm not talking about that rule. I'm
point
just
differential.
Saying, we're not talking about point differential in college. We're saying with the outer order scores, the molly whoppings that you'll see, 59-10.
That's different. I mean,
the Niners just beat the Eagles 42-19. You don't think at some point that it's psychological where, like, if we beat them down that bad, it's either going to spur your team on to be better and not get blown out, or you're going to have it in the other team's mind if you do have to face them in the playoffs or somewhere down the line in the season where it really counts.
I just think it's a bad look when you're up 19 on a team with 3 minutes to go and you still out there gunning, trying to shoot threes and score, and
they had no choice
trying to get possession of the ball. I think that's a bad
look. So what you
look.
would suggest for them to not do it?
I just said it. I said they should figure out a different tiebreaker. Probably have it be records from the previous season or how your record is at the time of,
not from the previous
whatever.
Season, though.
Maybe not the previous season, but maybe where your standings are at that point of the season or something to that effect, or maybe how many points you've scored so far during the season, as opposed to making it just that one game, make it accumulation of games. I just, like I said,
but that's
I think
the same thing though. So then in every in-season tournament game, you're going to be running up the score. At least.
Well, I just mean all throughout the regular season, in-season tournament games and not in-season tournament.
All right.
Games.
So for them to do it where it's like that, they're going to be running up the scores regardless then, because at least in this manner, the brackets, you had your qualifying for the quarterfinals, semifinals, or whatever. That's when I first started hearing about the point differential thing, right? And yeah, I was like, you know what? You there to win. If you got blown out, you might get blown out regardless. Whether there was a point differential in place or anyway. You have some teams who just don't like other teams. Like, they're not cool like that. They're professionals and respect each other professionally. But past that, if they could blow them out, they're going to blow them out. They're not going to be like, you know what? My homie on the Bulls, I don't want him mad at me, so let me not drop another 3-point.
It's not even about friends or liking anybody. It's like how baseball has all these unwritten rules. It's the same. So why do you care? It's just like baseball and football. You have unwritten
why do you
rules.
Care, then?
Because it's about friends. Because it's about the integrity of the game. It's not about liking somebody. Number one, it's about the integrity of the game. The other thing it's about
mean integrity of the game.
The other thing it's about is because the integrity. It's about.
Bro, if you win 55-10, there's been
to blow scores. To show a team up when the game is out of hand. is not playing with integrity. It's not playing with integrity,
questionable because people gonna get in their feelings. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of coaches, a lot of players that say, "Yeah, yo, if you want to stop that, score
it's not
more,
a good look,
do
man.
better."
We can
but
agree
I don't
to
think
disagree.
it's a matter of integrity.
We can agree to disagree. It's not a good look, man. Like I said, you up 25.
We're not gonna do that. Disagree to disagree. Now, if you want to say Michigan's integrity was questionable, Jim Harbaugh's integrity was questionable. Connor,
I'm not talking about individual integrity.
But bro, how could you say because a team put their best effort forward and blew your team out that they lack integrity?
I didn't say that they lack integrity. I said you're messing up they are devaluing and messing up the integrity of the overall game of basketball because when you're up 20 on a team, you don't still shoot and try and run the score up with 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. Most of the time in that situation, you're emptying the bench. Number one, because you don't want your starters hurt. Number one, because you don't want your starters hurt. You're not going to have these guys out there still trying to shoot threes and run fast breaks and all of that because they want to get a certain position.
I can agree with that, but
because it's based solely off a tiebreaker.
I don't think it has anything to do with integrity.
I
hear you with that.
It is. It is because in any other situation, they do not do that in the NBA.
You did something wrong. So you think bro. I think that's an overreaction. All right,
I don't think so.
Let's move on. That's an overreaction that it lacks
I don't think
integrity.
So.
Why, bro? They ain't do nothing wrong. You have never been a part of a team or seen your team win by a large margin?
Yeah, in the normal course of the game, not towards the end of the game where it's out of hand and you piling on. Teams don't do that.
They had to do that. That was the rules that was set up.
Exactly. But in any other situation, in any other sport, teams don't do that.
All right, so
teams don't do that.
Point out to you this. It doesn't matter, bro.
In football, they run the clock. You know what I'm saying? In baseball, well, baseball is a different animal.
No, sometimes teams just get blown out. Sometimes teams that you're playing,
during the normal course of the game because the other team you're playing is that bad, not because the game is out of hand and your team is trying to run the score up.
The 49ers just ran up the
Nobody
score
does
on...
that. Nobody does
they
that.
Do.
In no other sport, in not one of them.
They do.
No,
the Cowboys have been winning by almost 30 points per game.
Exactly. So once you know the game is out of hand, what do? You start running. You don't throw the ball because you want to run clock.
No,
so you go to almost strictly run plays.
Bro, not every team or every player is going to play like how you want it to be played or how you want it to be played.
I'm not saying like how I want it to be played. I'm telling you what I've seen. I'm telling you what I've seen.
All right, I can agree.
Because they don't do that in any sport.
Let's look up the word integrity and let's look at that.
They don't do that when the game is out of hand. The team that has the lead
agree with you
stops playing aggressively. They usually just play to run the clock out.
I can agree with your point.
Go through the motion.
Use of the word integrity,
whether it's in the finals, whether it's an exhibition, whether it's regular season,
it doesn't
football,
matter,
baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer. They don't.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But to say that
keep saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Because you're saying they're lacking integrity.
It does matter because I'm not the only one. There's other there are professional NBA players that felt the same way and voiced their
so what are they gonna do? Meet them in the parking lot?
Go ahead, man. Let's go, man.
What they gonna do? Meet them in the parking lot? Come on, really?
Man.
What are we talking about here?
Let's go. Man.
They got blown out. They got blown out, man. Yo, Logic, can we put up that pic just to mention? It has been Jimmy V week on ESPN, and that brings about a lot of cancer awareness. And we just had Thanksgiving, and then this time of the year, people also give back a lot also. You understand? So from that, there's a lot of charitable foundations, and Jimmy V was definitely one of the people who were instrumental in raising a lot of money for research, and they have a causes foundation in the NFL. And this is a pair of kicks that LeBron James gifted to Jamal Chase, which are fire. That's fire.
He gave a pair of basketball joints just like that to Shannon Sharp. Shannon had a video online unboxing them joints.
Yeah,
basketball. They weren't cleats though. But
He
same
sends
as
Asia Wilson a lot of gear too. Definitely. So reaching the summit part 2, we're just gonna run through the standings. So we have the American standings right now. I think who took an L this past week in college basketball, men's college basketball? Duke got knocked off this week. There's a few upsets that happened this week. South Carolina holds on to the number 1 spot in the women's side of the bracket. Did you see any of the college games this past week?
I didn't see any college basketball games this weekend.
Arizona goes to number 1. KU goes to 1. University of Houston at 3. Purdue at 4. Connecticut at 5. Baylor at 6. Gonzaga at 7. Marquette falls to the 8th spot. UNC at 9. And Creighton at 10. And Duke takes a big plunge. They fall 15 spots. They're now in the 22 spot. So definitely have to take a look at those rankings. What about on the women's side? You see any games on the women's side? They've been balling.
They have. I tried to catch that LSU game on Saturday, man. I wasn't able to. What's her name?
Reese?
Yeah, Angel Reese's first game back.
Yeah, we put the APB out on her, and she showed back up.
With no explanation, just I'm back, mind your business, let's go.
Well, her coach held her down.
She did.
So, her coach, Kim Mulkey, held her down. So what else you going to do? You're going to have to, if she threw her under the bus, right, then that'd be different. But she didn't. So South Carolina still remains at number 1, UCLA at 2, NCSU at 3, Iowa at 4, Texas at 5, USC at 6, LSU is at 7, Colorado drops to number 8, Stanford at 9, and Baylor at 10.
Rounding out the top 10.
Rounding out the top 10. Yes, sir. Moving along, we're gonna just go through. We're gonna skip guts and ice this week because we really didn't have too much activity as far as like any thing out of the usual. The Rangers are definitely balling. They're balling at a high level. They have the best record in the league right now, in the NHL right now. So definitely big up to the Rangers. Colorado Avalanche. Actually. Yeah, well, it must have just changed.
Boston. Yeah. Boston and then New York.
Well, yeah, Boston's in the Atlantic Metro. Rangers in the Metropolitan.
Oh, in the Metropolitan, yeah. In the Metropolitan.
So they definitely doing their thing. And then the Vegas Golden Knights are at number 1. Moving along from Guts and Ice, live from the Dime, and the winter meetings begin in Nashville, Tennessee. They have the Ochai Ohtani watch. That's going to be the show. Everybody's waiting on him to pull the trigger, and then they're gonna definitely move on from there. Everybody's waiting on Ohtani to sign, and then they're gonna make their moves from there. There's talks about Juan Soto to the Yankees. There's different talks right now. And for the sake of brevity, we're going to move on to BK Todd's top 5.
For sure. So for tonight's top 5, list will be the top 5 father and son combos in sports. Not all sports. Just the 4 major sports, because when we get into all sports, man, we get into some obscure stuff like well, not obscure, but like car racing with the Earnhardts, where salute to those cats, phenomenal in the game. But we're just gonna stick for the purposes of the top 5, we're gonna stick to the 4 major sports. So coming in at number 5 on the top 5 father-son combos in sports, we have the Griffeys, Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. In August of 1990, the Griffeys became the first father and son to play together on the same team in the history of Major League Baseball. Senior played over 2,000 MLB games over 19 seasons. He played over 2,000 MLB games in 19 seasons. Pardon me. But it was Junior who would go on to be one of the greatest baseball players of ever. And despite struggling with injuries at different points of his career, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the greatest two-way players the game has ever seen, with a record of 630 home runs, which is good for 7th all time. Coming in at number 4, we have the Hull family in the NHL, Bobby and Brett. Back in 2017, the NHL honored their 100 greatest players in league history. And Bobby and Brett were the only father and son duo to make that list. Both Bobby and his son Brett are among the top 20 goal scorers in NHL history. In fact, they're the only father-son duo to each score 600 goals in a career and 50 goals in a season. Salute to the Hulls. Coming in at number 3, we have MLB's Bonds family. Bobby Bonds was one of the greatest baseball players of the 70s during his career with the Giants. First player to have 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases in a season, and he did that 5 times. First player to have 30 and 30 in a season, and he did it 5 times. First player since fellow San Francisco Giants star Willie Mays to have 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases in his career when he retired in 81. Barry ended up being even better than his dad by all accounts, widely considered one of the best baseball players ever, even before the steroid scandal. As a matter of fact, he's baseball's all-time leader in home runs and walks. And as I mentioned, the steroid scandal is probably the only reason that he will not be in the Hall of Fame. Coming in at number 2, we have arguably the most famous father-son combo in the NBA. The Curry family, Dell and his 2 sons, Seth, and the other one, I think you might have heard of him. His name is Steph. Arguably one of the Chef Curry, baby, cooking up some marvelous stuff from deep. Arguably the most famous father-son combo in the NBA. The family's notoriety is due mostly to the exploits of Steph, who most call the greatest shooter in NBA history. And while Dell and Steph were more spot-up shooters and had more role-playing career, were more known as role players during their careers, they still displayed the deadly marksmanship that is known with the Curry name. As a matter of fact, Steph has parlayed the family talent into 4 championships in 7 years. So salute to the Curry family. Coming in at number 1 is the Manning family. Deep, rich football history prior to the NFL. Archie Manning was a great college player as well as a pretty good NFL player. He had 3 sons that were all great college football players. Well, Cooper, not so much. He got hurt. And his grandson is getting ready to play for Texas. He actually got into the championship game this weekend for a couple of snaps. But Arch Manning, Cooper's son. But Archie Manning and his sons Peyton and Eli actually had very different careers, statistically speaking, that is. Archie had a long career, championship less, but still he had a long 13-year NFL career, mostly with the NFL, with the New Orleans Saints. Was known as a pretty good quarterback, both running and passing. Peyton and Eli, however, have 4 Super Bowl wins and 3 Super Bowl MVPs between them. Add Peyton's record-setting 5 league MVPs, the only player in NFL history with 5 MVPs. And this group easily goes down as one of the best families in sports. Absolutely the best NFL family ever. So recapping the top 5 this week, we have Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. We have Brett and Bobby Hull. we have Bobby and Barry Bonds coming in at number 3. Coming in at 2, we have the Currys, Dell and his 2 sons, Seth and Steph Chef Splash Brother Curry. And coming in at number 1, we have the Mannings, Archie Manning and his phenomenal NFL QB sons, Peyton and Eli. Actually, the only father and son duo, well, the only father in sports to have sons with multiple championships. So that's why I put them at the top of the list. So salute,
Right.
and that's BK Ties top 5 this week. Shouts out.
All right. Monsters of the Week: Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy, 49ers defense, CMC, Caitlin Clark, Jalen Brunson, SGA. Any Monsters of the Week?
Jordan Love, throw him in there.
Oh yeah, Jordan Love definitely was definitely on point. Jordan Love.
And definitely Tyrese Halliburton, man. Salute to that cat for monster of the season so far, man. You know?
Right, definitely. Most def. Any underdogs of the week?
Nah, man, nothing that comes to mind right now.
Well, the Packers were definitely underdogs.
Yeah, I guess so.
They were not expected to beat the Chiefs.
They weren't
at all.
They weren't. So, but the way, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
29-17.
Regardless of how Kansas City's been playing this season, nobody saw that one coming. So yeah, salute to Green Bay on that one.
Yeah, we're gonna cover some orphans next week. That's gonna flow over. We're gonna discuss that LeBron James and Ime Udoka's exchange that they had, and a couple other orphans that we got to put in the orphanage, because the orphans are not in our network. And we're gonna just wrap it up right there, bro.
No doubt, brother. Salute, man. Always a pleasure, man. Shouts out to all the sports fans from coast to coast, every arena, every field, every court. Big up to Flatbush, Brooklyn, the hometown. Salutes to 757, 2 up, 2 down. Shouts out to VA.
All right. That's how it is. Yeah, salute to you, man. Thanks for being my partner in crime on this journey called Sports in the City. Ja Logic, the IRAD Network, Sports in the City TV. Your man Reed Richards. Till next time, we out.